I need new music.
This is the JJO Discover New Music Podcast.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Discover New Music. Very excited to have my guest on, a former alum of Discover New Music. And here we are with Josh Katz of Badflower. New record, No Place Like Home. Josh, good to see you. More importantly, excited to talk new music. And first album since 2021's This Is How the World Ends. 4 years go by. I know people waiting with bated breath to hear new music from Badflower. Walk us through getting started on this new project. You know, where you guys knew you were at creatively to get started and get to work.
It was hard.
Yeah.
Most of it was done on a bus because we spent most of our time on a bus, and that was new for us at the time. Because prior to that, like our first album, obviously you have your whole life to write your first album.
Right.
And then the second one we wrote before, we started writing before COVID started, and then COVID happened. It was like, all right, well, we have all the time in the world now. And then this one was like, yeah, writing an album during peak touring. And so that was pretty hard. Yeah. So a lot of it started, and a lot of it finished on a bus too. Like a lot of vocal takes were done in the back of a bus, and I couldn't beat them later.
Good acoustics in those buses. Okay, well that brings, I guess, an interesting question for me is: do you think this album would have been completely different if it wasn't for the circumstances? I know you guys were so busy out there on the road, and everyone just feverishly wanting more Badflower. Do you think this album would have been different given the circumstances?
Well, I'm a firm believer in the butterfly effect. I think if you changed one tiny piece of the last like 3 years or however long it's been, literally anything, take one person out of the crowd at one show and insert a different one and have that energy shift, everything would have been completely different. That's what I think. So I think all things have to line up perfectly for whatever happens to happen.
Yeah. Great movie, by the way. Go see it. Ashton Kutcher. Who else is in that movie?
Yeah, very underrated.
Underrated
movie.
Yeah.
The girl, the blonde. What
was it Amy Smart? Is that?
Yes, Amy Smart.
Amy Smart.
Yes,
yeah.
Amy Smart. Good one.
Yeah, you're right. It's kind of like the old what's that? Eternal Sunshine. Jim underrated. You got a goofball playing a serious role. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but it does.
Yeah, and I think when that movie came out, a lot of people ripped on it because he is a goofball. But then later, over time, it's built like a cult. People I talk to about Butterfly Effect are like, yeah, nobody talks about that movie. It's like my favorite movie.
Great movie. Little dark, but great movie. Kelso playing a serious guy. Anyway, before I get sidetracked on cinema, well, we're glad everything worked out. We're glad all the pieces fell together, and I know it was a lot of work, but getting this new record put together, I know we kind of got into this a little bit. Maybe this question has already been answered, but outside of, working on this bus, writing on a bus and recording that way, was there something that really stood out to you guys in making this record compared to the previous two? Good, bad, indifferent?
Yeah, mostly bad. I'm trying to stay positive during this interview because a lot of my interviews have been negative lately. So I'm going to try to stay excited about the fact that our record comes out in a week and not doom and gloom constantly. However, I'll be honest with you, it was mostly doom and gloom. Yeah, I mean, the first two records, full disclosure, I was very drunk and very high on all kinds of different drugs and substances, and I loved it. I had the best time. And then this time around, I tried to do that. I don't have anything positive or negative to say about substances. Like, do you, as long as you're under control. But I thought I was under control, and I thought I was going to go into this record, the third one, the same way I did the first two, and I tried, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
So something about like my body chemistry in my 30s just can't handle it. It doesn't enjoy it. So I had to figure out how to write sober, which was awful. Yeah.
Doubting yourself, not feeling the creative process, if you don't mind, awful. How so?
I guess when I've spent so much time writing, like as a writer, I've always been under the influence of something, and trying to do it for the first time in a very, very long time, like almost a decade, I guess, with my actual brain uninhibited, I couldn't figure out whether or not it was what I loved to do, or if it was just something that I loved to do when I was high,
Wow.
or something that I was good at, or only something I was good at when I was high. And so these are the things that I'm still wrestling with now, which is why it's still doom and gloom, because I still don't know. I guess doing that to my body for a while, even though I wasn't addicted doing, like when I was on tour, I was sober, but when I was home and writing, I was never sober.
Yeah.
And so even though I didn't have like the full on addiction where I couldn't stop, I could easily stop for long periods of time.
Yeah.
I think what it did to my brain from like a psychological perspective was really unhealthy. And so now I'm trying to build back my confidence as an artist without the help of this stuff. I'm to be honest with you, I'm failing so far. I haven't figured it out yet. I think I will. But I think there's going to be some really dark periods, and I think I'm in one now.
Well, I hope, and I know I'm speaking for pretty much everyone, and maybe we can put your mind at ease, or at least give you a little more confidence, because I know that's an uphill battle that only you can fight. But from the attention, the positive reviews, people clamoring to hear it, the new record dropping on the 20th, I think you got to stop being so hard on yourself. And I'm excited to see what is going to come from this and this new journey for you. For what it's worth, Josh. For what it's worth.
Stop being so hard on yourself is like, that's one of those things that everybody keeps telling me, and I keep telling myself, and it just doesn't matter how many times you say it. It just doesn't stick.
You're your own biggest critic, and I think anyone on a creative side putting themselves out there, and I know I'm just a lowly radio DJ, but you kind of struggle with that creative side of things, because you're very vulnerable. You're very vulnerable. You're doing something you're passionate about, and I think it takes an extra toll on you, emotionally, physically, because it's a part of you. At least for me. If someone tells me I'm not funny, it ruins my weekend. And but man, I tell you what, we wouldn't be here on our third album if there wasn't something special there. So I'll leave you with that little part, building from.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you.
Yeah.
Isn't it weird how like some random person can say something, like if some random person who you like, there's no reason to listen to that person's opinion, but if they say you're not funny, you're like, why is my day ruined? Why is my week ruined?
And then
why does that hurt so much? Why do I feel like they're right and I don't even know who they are?
Yep.
Yeah, I get that too.
Yeah, and then the positive things you just forget about, even though you got that coming. So, well, I can't wait to hear more. Again, the album "No Place Like Home" drops June 20th, and something I think is super interesting about you guys, and obviously you've worked very hard at your craft, but it's crazy to watch how people from the get go have just dove headfirst into the Badflower world, and just fans, radio stations, whatever it may be, everyone was just all over you. And again, for the work you've done and everything, and I could see how you'd want to maybe try and recreate that sound, that creative place, that the same place that made people pay attention. How have you guys worked around that? And with this new record, making new music, growing creatively, sonically, but still also making that same thing that people fell in love with?
Kind of hard. Yeah, it's kind of hard because another thing I think a lot of people don't realize about artists and bands, the genre that they are successful with isn't necessarily exactly what they feel they are all the time.
Right.
When I was starting out early on, it was me and Joey, my guitarist in the beginning. We tried all kinds of different sounds and styles, like all kinds of stuff. We were like, oh, we're going to be like the Beatles. We're going to be kind of quirky, and I'm going to play the piano. And he's like, we did all kinds of weird stuff. And then, we wrote one rock song that happened to catch on just a little bit, just enough that we were like, oh, okay. So like the angsty thing kind of works for us.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's maybe so many different styles of music I love and we all love. It's hard to just pick one. And honestly, we don't. If you listen to our albums, we don't really just pick one. Mm-hmm. It's most of the time like the radio singles are the ones that sound the most like the thing that people like, I guess. Mm-hmm. However, we put out Detroit first from this album, and that was like the poppiest thing we had ever done. So that was new. But yeah, I guess it's kind of hard. Sometimes I have that thought in my head, like, oh, I need another Ghost. Like if we don't have another Ghost, our band isn't going to be successful. But then I try to write that song, and I'm like, well, I don't feel the way I did then, and so this song is garbage. Like I can't just write that song. I can't fake those emotions.
Right.
In fact, I can't write a song at all if I don't have something I need to say or I feel like is deserving of being out in the world as some kind of like art piece referencing this feeling.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why our albums take so long, is because I can't just do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You're not just regurgitating old stuff and really finding that inspiration in there, which I think is why what has come out has been so powerful. And when people latch onto Badflower, it's not just because, I mean, you can have your bubblegum rock, you can do all that, the cock rock, if you will, and it has its place, but that true, emotional attachment, I think, is what really comes forward with Badflower. And I think why people just are head over heels with it. You got a favorite track on the record, and maybe one that speaks to you more than the others?
Yeah. What's the point?
Okay.
Yeah. What's the point? It's the two, I guess they're not the two slowest, but what's the point in Butterfly at the end are the two that like mean the most to me. I could have an album of just those two songs.
That's a pretty powerful statement there. Any elaborate, or is that for you? Is that just for Josh?
No, I mean, I think Butterfly is just for me. I actually listened to it again recently, and I'm like, I don't know if anybody's gonna really enjoy this song in the way that I needed to write it, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if anybody's gonna like be in some mood and go, I'm gonna put this song on. I just don't know if I think I do that a lot. I'm realizing with a lot of our songs, I don't always write stuff that people are just gonna go, oh, I want to listen to this thing.
Yeah.
I guess I write more selfishly, where I'm like, I need people to hear this thing that I did.
Yeah.
I need people to understand me by listening to this thing. And that's not good for business at all, but I don't really care, I guess.
It's working. It's working. And I think there's something that stands out with that, and a lot of bands I've talked to, especially the ones that are, 10 albums in, and they almost have this new, I don't know, this new excitement, this new exuberance about this career that they've picked, because like, well, we wrote this album for ourselves. We stopped worrying about, we got to please the producer. We got to please the record reps. They wrote for themselves. And sometimes I think it takes bands a lot longer because you're playing the game. You want to, and it's understandable. So I really enjoy that answer about those two tracks. Well, I have just two more questions, and we're going to do rapid fire as we talk about No Place Like Home. This one is kind of my masterpiece theater, James Lipton deep question, if you will. What does 2015 Josh Katz of Cartoons think about 2025's No Place Like Home?
Whoa, bro.
Like I said, I'm just getting deep with you, buddy.
I think he thinks that it's very cool what I've been able to accomplish. I don't even know if he likes this album, because that guy hasn't lived through the experiences that I've lived through to really get it. And I think he thinks I'm an idiot. I do, actually. I think he thinks that I'm going through something really stupid, and I need to cut it out and stop with the doom and gloom. I think about this a lot. That's why I said, whoa, because
in your head, I got
you. Well, yeah, in my head, through all this chaos that's happening in here, I just keep I'm wrestling with the idea that I don't want to do this anymore. That's like the main thing. I keep wrestling with it. Like, is this even me? Is this even who I am? Is this what I love? And then I think about my younger self going, you idiot. Like, you worked so hard and you won the lottery.
Yeah.
Like, nobody gets this. Nobody gets this far. Nobody has this life. And you're like considering not doing it anymore. What an idiot. But again, like, that younger version of myself hasn't lived this many years of doing it successfully to know, I guess, what it's done to my brain.
Yeah.
Which is not all, it's not positive. It's not normal. It's not like this isn't a normal thing for humans, especially with the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Like to be, I think having fans isn't normal. Like if you think about the popular kid in school, right? That kid's always an asshole because it goes to his head.
Yeah,
Like he's always like he's always a hothead. He's always cocky. He's always like a narcissist. Always.
Mm-hmm.
And chicken to the egg. I don't know. Like, was he popular because he was that way, or did he become popular and then get that way? But either way, he has a little bit more attention than the other kids, and he becomes a hothead.
Mm-hmm.
When you have the attention of a ton of people, and you go out on stage and there's thousands of people who love you, that's not normal. And I think there's a reason why so many famous people go crazy. Like of course they're going crazy. Like we're not supposed to handle this. It's not normal, and it's the thing that everybody wants too.
Yeah,
it's so strange. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if I want it anymore, but I still love music though.
Yeah.
So I think that'll never change. I still love music. My relationship with loving the thing and wanting to make the thing, it's like those are different.
No.
Wanting to make the thing and then wanting to be appreciated publicly for what I created and how it affected the world. Like that stuff doesn't feel like it did. And I'm just in like foreign waters now, trying to figure out what I actually want, and what feels good and what doesn't feel good. I don't know. And also I said this to my team just recently, like, I'm probably just depressed. Like full stop. I need to fit my baseline, like normal is too low right now. And I need to get to neutral. And I'd be like, oh, all that stuff I was saying, like, I just was depressed. So it's all good.
I think too, coming off of all the hard work putting an album in, and that catharsis that will now be enjoying it, living in it, being in that space. I think you're going to be in a great spot, buddy. And I think also too, I want you to remember what I said before. One, stop being so hard on yourself. And two, that first part of that answer to that question, you did say the initial was that he'd think it's pretty cool. He'd think it's pretty cool. And I think you remember that from younger Josh, is that he'd think it's pretty cool what you got put together here. And I think that's a good thing to remember.
Yeah, I just think that he would think the first album was cooler.
Well, I mean, that's always the case. That's always the case, right? All right.
I wish it wasn't, but that's what he would think.
Yeah, our younger selves are always so harder on our older selves. All right. Well, now that we got the important stuff out of the way, again, No Place Like Home, June 20th, Badflower. Go get it. You're going to love it. So much more to come from these guys. We're very excited. I have rapid fire. Let's get her done quick because I know I'm just about out of time. No wrong answers on this, Josh. We'll just get to know you a little bit better. Let's start simple. Sneakers or sandals?
Sneakers.
Billy Ocean or Billy Idol?
Billy Ocean.
Very nice. Good answer. Another name one sound alike. David Bowie or David Lee Roth?
David Bowie.
Very nice. Choco Taco or Flintstone Push Pop?
Taco Taco, but vegan.
Okay, gotcha. Split pea soup or creamy tomato bisque?
Split pea.
That is good. With some black pepper on there. That's nice. All right, last one. Would you rather see Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster?
Bigfoot.
Have you ever had, final question, on the road, any kind of Bigfoot experience? Because I know a lot of time in a van, a lot of window time going around the country. Anything?
No.
I always want people to say yes, and then we get into a conversation. But that's all right. If you ever do, though, write it down and tell me about it, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
It'd be a big deal.
Okay.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for humoring me. More importantly, Josh, it was a lot of fun chatting with you, man. I always like getting into your brain for a little bit. The new album, No Place Like Home, out June 20th, Badflower. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you so much.
Listen, rate, share, subscribe. Discover new music now at WJJO.com, in the JJO app, or wherever you get your podcasts. Brock has a new interview every Thursday evening between 6 and 7. 94.1 JJO.